two, 1, 2, 3.
Hello and welcome to Ithaca DSA Presents. I'm Teresa Alt. I present a press conference led by Gabriella Carr, Associate Coordinator of the Tompkins County Workers Center, introducing the Unemployment Bridge Program.
We're here today to talk about a new legislation that's being put forward called the Unemployment Bridge Program. Just to talk a little bit about the Workers Center, the Tompkins County Workers Center started as the Living Wage Coalition about 20 years ago, fighting to raise minimum wage. And then we realized that there's a lot more work that needs to be done for workers, and we expanded to all worker rights issues for all people. And today we're going to talk about some particularly excluded workers who are really the lifeline of our economy in so many ways. But before we get started, I'd like to have our speakers introduce themselves. We'll start right here at the end and we'll pass it down.
Hi, I'm Ian Greer, and I'm a research professor at Cornell's School of Industrial and Labor Relations. I'm also a director of something called the ILR Ithaca CoLab, and I do research about unemployed workers and unemployment benefit systems in North America and Europe.
Hello, I'm Phoebe Brown. I work for Alliance of Families for Justice. I'm the Central Regional Coordinator, and I'm also a council representative for Ward 2.
Good afternoon. My name is Carlos Gutierrez. I work for the Mid-State Council for Occupational Safety and Health, which office is right through that door over there, and I'm a former employee of the Tompkins County Workers Center, where Gabriella comes from.
Hi, my name is Lucy Williams. I also work for Mid-State Coast with Carlos. I do outreach on the fields, you could say, looking for people that need to be educated on the health and safety issues at their workplace.
Hi, I'm Keegan Young, and I work for URO as a Healthful Transitions Coordinator Assistant, and I am formerly systems impacted.
Thank you so much to all our speakers for being here today and shedding light on this issue. Before we get started, I just want to explain what is the Unemployment Bridge Program. This is a program that would be a secondary unemployment benefits system separate from traditional unemployment insurance. This would be a program for people who are exclusively barred from access from unemployment insurance benefits. This program would in particular affect 750,000 workers in New York State. And it covers 4 areas of labor. It includes self-employed entrepreneurs who are also freelancers, independent contractors running their own business. It includes cash workers who are in the sectors of day laboring, such as farm workers, construction workers, as well as domestic home care, such as housekeeping or home care aides. In addition, it also covers people coming out of reentry from incarceration, and also covers folks coming out of immigrant detention. And then the final category of workers who are impacted are undocumented immigrant workers, which immigrant workers over the last 10 years have contributed more than $1 billion in taxes. So now is a time to recognize the true value of the labor that is coming out from workers who are primarily low wage and moderate income earners. For this program, you have to make below $56,000. So it's truly impacting the people who struggle the most when they're out of work or find themselves without financial resources. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic to Miss Phoebe, who is from the Alliance for Families for Justice, who's going to speak a little bit about the impact of this work for the reentry community.
Hello. First, I'd like to open up by inviting my ancestors into this room to guide us and to keep us safe. Next, I'd like to take some of my time, a moment of silence for the Tyree Nichols family. If you'll join me for one moment of silence. I thank you all for joining us. So it is my honor at working with Alliance of Families for Justice to support the Unemployment Bridge Program. Our mission and our goal is to empowering, embracing, helping, and mobilizing humans returning to our communities from prison. Also those who have loved ones incarcerated. This would allow individuals to feel empowered and dignity. It will help lessen the traumatic experience of returning back to our communities. This is a step in the right direction. However, it's one of many. And it's my pleasure to sit here to see some of our community members here who've been working really hard in this area. So I thank you, and I hope that people really take a moment to understand why this is so important when we bring our people back to our communities, right? Because they come back with a lot of hurt and pain, and that's not even talking about what the families are experiencing who live in our communities. So this has been an honor for me to be invited, and I thank y'all, and I'm here for the fight.
Thank you, Ms. Phoebe Brown. I'd like to take a moment to particularly talk about how this would impact the reentry community. As Ms. Phoebe said, people face incredible barriers when they reenter the community from incarceration, whether that be financial resources, family support, social emotional support. And this program would actually waive work requirements and wage history, recognizing that when people are incarcerated, work may not be an option. Work is, because of the 13th Amendment, is done at sub-minimum wages, and we recognize that trauma. And so in recognition of that, we would waive the requirements. Anyone who's been incarcerated at least a year would have that completely waived and be eligible to apply as soon as they're released. They would qualify for $1,200 a month for 6 months. If someone was incarcerated less than a year, it would include the time they were incarcerated plus the time right before their incarceration for work history. So I'd like to go ahead and invite a member of our community, Keegan Young, to speak specifically about how this legislation would have impacted and increased his quality of life as he was re-entering the community last year.
Thank you. So again, I'm Keegan Young. I'm 38 years old, and I spent 12 years in prison. I was just released last year in March. Parole forced me to come here. I'm from Syracuse. I had no support, friends, or family in the area that I knew of. I was living out of a backpack at the homeless shelter my first week back. And I went to DSS the first day and I said, look, I just got out of prison, I've got nothing. They said, we'll send something to the shelter. They never sent anything to the shelter. And over the next few weeks and months, they gave me a runaround where I got nothing, absolutely nothing from them. So I have been living at a halfway house setting for the 9 months after my release. I was surrounded by drugs, weapons, and untreated mental illness. I was not safe or comfortable. I had trouble finding steady employment, and I was also dealing with anxiety and depression, being back and being around regular people again. It was hard for me to work or do work training for more than half a day for many months. Took me many, many months to adjust being back. I'm just sort of getting back into feeling normal. Even though I earned a bachelor's degree in prison through the Bard Prison Initiative, I still had trouble finding steady employment until October. That's 7 months after I got out. If I'd had unemployment support, I could have taken my time to adjust and rejoin society. I wouldn't have had to rush to try and find a job and be worried about paying rent and my other debts. I could have gotten my own apartment where I would have actually felt safe and comfortable. It would have given me a better shot at actually, getting on my feet and rejoining society. So, and I know from talking to my other colleagues, I'm not the only person who's gone through these struggles or is going through these struggles. So the struggle is real. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Keegan, for being here today and sharing your story. I'd like to go ahead and invite Ian Greer to speak. give a little overview on why this program is so important based on the work that he's done studying unemployment benefits and unemployed workers.
All right. Well, I'm really pleased to be presenting here because I love this topic. And I mean, unemployment insurance is such an important thing for working people. It's a lifeline when they're unemployed, but it also stabilizes business when there are economic downturns. So it has really a lot of different, really important functions, especially when it works well. The problem is it does not cover most workers in the United States. In New York State, about 2/3 of unemployed workers do not get unemployment insurance. And this is a problem downstate, upstate, rural areas, urban areas. The ratio is actually worse in Ithaca than it is statewide. And you know, in order to understand this, you have to know a little bit about the logic of unemployment insurance. So it's temporary assistance for unemployed workers who are unemployed through no fault of their own. So there are a lot of restrictions in there. So temporary in this state means 26 weeks. So about 25 to 30% of people are still unemployed when they exhaust their benefits. It's for people who can demonstrate an employment record and a record of earnings, such as really low earners, people entering the labor market, like formerly incarcerated people. It also excludes self-employed people for that reason. You have to be, there's this concept of fault. If you're fired for misconduct or if you quit your job, normally you can't get unemployment benefits. You have to be actively looking for work and available for work, so that excludes people. Undocumented workers are considered under law not available for work. So this is a legal fiction and in many ways preposterous, but it's how it works. So this program is super important because it creates something for a large chunk of the working population that did not exist before. So fixing unemployment insurance, that can expand coverage a little bit, but a program like this is going to extend coverage a lot, and it's going to bring the United States in line with the rest of the world. So I mean, I do research about unemployed workers, about unemployment insurance systems, mostly here and in Germany. And in Germany, almost every unemployed worker gets unemployment benefits of one kind or another. And one thing you can learn from that is that unemployment benefits actually can prevent unemployment. It can support people exiting from unemployment through partial unemployment or short-time compensation schemes. It can support employers and workers to avoid layoffs. It can strengthen workers' power by enabling them to turn down bad jobs. And sometimes it can even support workers when they quit their bad jobs, if it's a so-called good cause quit. And I mean, probably one thing that probably unemployment benefits don't get enough credit for is supporting workers, not just while they're not working, but also supporting them kind of preparing themselves for the work and the kind of life that they want, giving them time. Yeah, I really hope this legislation passes, and yeah, many thanks for letting me talk here.
Thank you so much, Ian. As I mentioned, one of the biggest populations that would be impacted by the Unemployment Bridge Program would be undocumented immigrant workers. So I'd like to invite Carlos Gutierrez and Lucy Williams to speak about their work empowering and advocating for immigrant workers in this area.
Thank you, Gabriella. Good afternoon again. As it was said, my name is Carlos Gutierrez, and I'm an immigrant myself. And I had, in the beginning of coming to this country, I had my own experience, even though I came here legally with a visa, and then very quickly I got a permit to work. I experienced not being paid my overtime. Okay. That's typical in the industry. No matter where you go, if they can get away and not pay you your overtime, they will do that. All right. So imagine what happened to the most vulnerable. Even though you know, I'm not talking about myself, just as an example, but the most vulnerable people that don't have certain rights in the United States because they do not have a permit to work. They don't have an entry visa to work. They are basically at the will of the employer. And I can just mention a couple of things that we often meet out there working with farm workers, dairy farm workers. Violation of safety and health, laws, wrongful termination after workers have been injured, lack of empathy and failing to take the workers to a hospital, and being terminated in groups when workers have got enough courage to say, the foreman is really, I used the word, basically abusing us, okay? And then the employees just come in, one day say, everybody's out, I have a new group in, and you're in the streets. And including throwing them out of their living quarters in the middle of a winter night. And this is just one little list, okay? I bet there are more over there. Very important, farm workers, agricultural workers, no matter where they come from, they are an intrinsic part of our national economy. And they are who make New York State look good at our tables with all this variety of milks and milk products and yogurts and so on. So what's up? They pay taxes too. They get deducted Social Security, even though they don't have a Social Security account. They pay for Medicare. Anything that is deductible under the law, they do. So, unemployment benefits. If you've been on unemployment benefits, you know that the employer usually contests your claim. But the way we see it here is the worker would have an opportunity to face the employer through the system. If they produce a claim, regardless whether they have the right or not at that moment, because that's what the unemployment law says, okay? Nobody can tell you except the state whether you qualify or not for unemployment. They made that determination, all right? So if not, they also have the opportunity to face the employer at a hearing, when they appeal for their case, if they lose it. So there's a way of doing justice to workers through this, if this new program could be implemented in New York State. So we at the Mid-State Council for Occupational Safety and Health definitely support, open-heartedly this campaign, and that's it for today. Thank you.
Hi, I believe this program would benefit many immigrants who otherwise wouldn't be eligible or covered for unemployment because of their immigration status. In my experience, like Carlos said, I've seen also people that have been forced to vacate their homes because they were fighting for their for a wage increase at the time. They did a little like a strike, not to go to work for 3 days. And the first time they won, the owner said, all right, I'll give you the 50 cents more or whatever per hour. And then they tried it again, and it didn't work. They said, all right, he came at 8 o'clock in the morning, knocked on their doors and said, you're out. Like, okay, because I have people coming in. He hired someone to bring people. So till this day, he has people, if they don't work well, they just go, they just replaced quickly. Also, this program would benefit that one single mother, single mother that has kids back home, and she's by herself, making money to send home. Sorry, I don't know. It's just stuff that I see every day. Just, people are just getting here, they don't have anybody or a place to go to work right away sometimes, and they have to sometimes pay someone else to find them jobs. And then just coming here, they have to work for a long time to pay their passage to the country. As we all know, it's like $15,000. And well, it's this would be nice that if they could have this benefit.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Lucy. Before we move forward, I'd like to share why this legislation is important to me personally. I'm a first-generation Brazilian American. My mom is an immigrant from Brazil who came here in 1984. My mom came here on a student visa to learn English at a university. Previous to coming to America, my mom was a professional. She worked at a national bank. She had retirement benefits. She had a much higher quality of life, and my mother gave that all up to provide me the opportunity. I would not be sitting here today with a college education, working in the field of social justice, if it was not for the sacrifices my mother made. While I had the internship for the lawyer, my mother cleaned their toilets. While I went to college, my mother starved herself so I could have access to education. My mother came here without working papers and worked without wages just for tips at the Waldorf Astoria in New York City, serving the most affluent of people from all over the country. My mother worked in hospitality like many other immigrants who come to America in New York City for no wages. She eventually found a path to citizenship in the early 90s and became a self-employed entrepreneur. She had a short-term real estate license and was subletting apartments in New York City to the affluent of Brazil when they would come to America. Unfortunately, 9/11 happened and my mother lost her entire business. She was almost 50 years old, an immigrant with a strong accent, an immigrant who does not pass as a white person. And my mother found herself as a domestic violence survivor with a young child and no income. My mother found herself in a desperate situation and became a home care aide and a housekeeper. My mother has been a housekeeper and a home care aide for over 20 years. She is almost 70 years old and continues to work every single day. She actually has Social Security benefits, but they only equal $8 an hour, and my mom continues to work for $8 an hour at a sub-minimum wage as a home care aide. My mother, fortunately, has done a mixture of on-the-books independent contracting as a home care aide, as well as cash work. So when the pandemic hit, my mother's client actually died of COVID. And the entire household that was working for her, the domestic workers, all got COVID themselves. My mom found herself at risk. She was living as a home care aide live-in, so now she found herself without housing in the middle of a pandemic, without any other supports. And like many immigrants, my mother's sending home money to the family. Because of PUA, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, my mother was very fortunate to receive unemployment benefits, which were life-saving for that time. Unfortunately now, my mother continues to pay taxes, my mother continues to do home care, my mother works so that the loved ones of the person he takes care of can actually access the unemployment benefits that she is barred from as a cash worker, as a domestic worker, as a self-employed entrepreneur. But during the pandemic, she had access because of PUA. This program would permanently make access to unemployment benefits for all self-employed entrepreneurs and for many immigrants like my mother who find themselves working in domestic care and are truly allowing affluent folks to be able to live their lives because they're willing to make the sacrament to take care of their loved ones. So I just wanted to share that story about why this legislation matters to me personally. Before we open the Q&A section, I just wanted to talk about the cost of this legislation and how it will be funded, as I think that's many people's concerns as we're trying to push this into the 2023 budget. This bill would cost $500 million between paying out benefits, having workers at the Department of Labor, as well as creating a navigating program, which we learned navigation programs are extremely important because workers don't know what they actually have access to. They don't know their rights. And so we need programs that empower people to understand that there is a social safety net, that they are seen as workers. They are not invisible to our economy and to the lifeline of what we do. And so this bill would be supported by another legislation that's been put forward for a digital sales tax. This would hit major tech corporations such as Google, Amazon, who make 99% of their revenues from selling digital ad space. Digital ad space in New York State is currently untaxed. So this is up to $1 billion in taxes that is being untapped, that's going into the pockets of big tech and not going to the workers who are actually, our economy would not sustain, would not exist without them. So I'd like to thank all my speakers today for being with us, for being part of this. I'd like to go ahead and open it to the floor for any questions or any comments.
My name is Ricardo Escobedo, or Escobedo. My parents grew up in Mexico. I grew up in Texas. And it was kind of hard to watch them move into the States by themselves illegally and find their footing. So coming from a Mexican household, I'm proud of my heritage, and I'm proud that my parents are now legal. If this was around when my parents came into the United States, it would have been a gift.
I think it is important to reiterate that this bill would disproportionately support Black, brown, and people of color, without a doubt, and especially when it comes to the reentry population. And we know here in Tompkins County there is deep income inequity that is deeply related to mass incarceration and the systemic oppression here in our community. It's not a New York City problem, it's not an inner city problem, it's a statewide problem, and it's right here in our community. So thank you all for being here today and supporting this work. We'd like to thank Anna Kellis, Assembly Member, for supporting this bill and continuing to make a commitment. We have asked Assemblymember Anna Kellis to make a commitment to the reentry community because in the past the reentry community has had to be removed from legislation for excluded workers, and now is the time to say no more. So thank you very much.
That was Gabriella Carr of the Workers Center telling us about the Unemployment Bridge Program. This has been Ithaca DSA Presents. I'm Teresa Alt. Thanks for watching.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.